live. I hope we're live. This is the first time we're on YouTube. It is the Modern Relics podcast. I'm Angel. He's Lucky. Yeah. Welcome back, buddy.
How's it going? Wow.
How is it
you can
going?
see us.
You can see us. For those of you listening,
All right.
on the
I hope we're live.
the podcast channels, you can see us on YouTube now. How am I doing? Well, I mean, I can't believe it's lockdown season. I mean, already. I still have my climate change decorations up, and so
Right.
you know, I got
I got fire season ornaments on the outside of the house right now.
Yeah. Now I'm doing
But
all
now
right,
it's
man.
lockdown season already.
I'm doing good. It's been an interesting week for sure. Work's been pretty outrageous, and the weather's been very outrageous. Although I will say where I'm at, dude, it's calmed down to like 85 at night now, which is great instead of the usual 100 and something. But yeah, not too bad overall.
Yeah, we're down pretty significantly.
Yeah,
We're in the mid 70s here right now.
Yeah.
So, but
all
just
good.
besides weather and work,
Yeah, I've been
any fun activities?
fun. Not really, to be honest with you. Like, I didn't realize that it was a holiday weekend until like Thursday. I'm like, oh yeah, I don't have to work on Monday. That's cool. And then it dawns on me Saturday afternoon, like, you should have probably planned something to do this weekend because you're off for that time. But I did a fantasy football draft. It was kind of meh, but you know, that happened. Football's all of a sudden here. Yeah, like, have you ever been in a position where you know,
Is fantasy football like Dungeons and Dragons with sports players?
yeah, lots of pop
Is that
collars,
basically what it
backwards
is?
ball caps, chest bumps. No, not so much.
On top of
It's
there's no dice rolling though.
it's honestly it's a complex math problem predicated on probability and opportunity. So it's actually more
Huh.
like statistical in nature, and then it's kind of fun because you just get to watch individual players that do well. Rather, who cares which team wins? Like, as long as your player's doing well, then that means you're doing well.
Huh.
So it actually is pretty fun when everyone's participating. But have you ever been in an environment where, like, you know the environment really well, you know the theater of operations you're in really well, but you didn't study for the test? And so you get to test day and you're like, I can kind of hang because I've been doing this for a while, but man, I am not prepared for this at all. That's kind of been my fantasy football approach, just because, you know, life has been happening and I'm like, I didn't get into podcasts and look at the college draft all the way out to pre-season. I didn't watch any of it. I just didn't get to it. So that's kind of how that went. You know, I don't know if you could relate to moments in time like that, but that's how it was.
Oh yeah, you just basically described how I governed my life. So that's basically how I have operated for 45 years.
Yeah, nice.
I've operated for 45 years by like not studying for the test, just being involved in something so much that I'm like, I got it.
Yeah, like, I'm just gonna hammer my way through this.
That's how I raised kids.
Nice. We're getting chats checking in. Sound is good though. Thanks, man. Appreciate that. I like it. That is managing moderator.
We got a moderator. Nobody mess around in there.
There. He's now managing moderator for our channel. Congratulations on the promotion, Ollie. That feels good. Yeah, dude. So I know we got a few things we're gonna probably approach. I'll let you take the steering wheel this week more so. I have a few concepts that I would like to work through, and one of the things that I'm really interested in doing is trying to bring a guest on. And I have one of bring the wife in. Bring her in here. She's live on the internet. Get in here, the wife.
Come here. Come say hi. Yeah, it's the wife.
Tell the wife exactly this. Hi, the wife.
How's it going?
She looks dashing
Hi,
as
the
usual.
wife, he says.
So
you look dashing as usual.
Tell her this. I cracked open
There's so
that
many
jam
meetings.
she sent me home with,
Oh, sweet.
and it's delicious.
Oh, he cracked open the jam, and he says it's delicious.
Like, she should consider selling it.
Good. Get some more.
Susie Homemaker, he said you should consider selling it. And yeah, she's fantastic. It's not just the jam; it's anything that she touches is spun out of gold.
Yeah.
So it is.
She's
but I
Weifel
appreciate she
Stiltskin?
appreciates it.
Does that work? Weifel
Yeah,
Stiltskin?
Weifel Stiltskin. Yeah, yeah. So, but yeah, she brought me coffee because I needed energy.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Mm. Oh, she made that hot. Whew. Yeah. So you were, before my amazing wife so rudely interrupted,
Yeah.
what were you going on about?
Oh,
Something
some
about
bullshit.
stuff.
No, I was going to let
All
you
right.
take the wheel. There's a couple of things that I'd like to explore. I want to get a guest on the show. I have a buddy of mine that built the tables for me, like my kitchen table, dining room table, and all that stuff as the housewarming gifts. He's willing to come on. He's also a coworker, and I'm trying to kind of frame up. He's in an interesting point. He's about your age. He has a daughter in college. He has a second daughter entering her senior year, and his youngest, I think, is a freshman. And so he has a really interesting perspective. Also, he has a wife, 3 daughters, and like 2 female dogs and stuff. So I'm like, anytime you need to like get away from all that estrogen, dude, and just come on down here, smoke a cigar, drink a whiskey, or whatever.
Wow.
Like, come on down. Yeah, Ollie, it is. He mentioned who it was in chat. That's exactly right. So I think, but he has a really unique and interesting perspective that I think is pretty valuable. So I'm trying to tailor that up. I know you'd mentioned on our audio podcast before tonight, getting a pastor, I think, that you know, to come in and really tackle a couple of the questions that we'd like to unpack, I think, as a team a little bit more. So any of that stuff.
He would be.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say he would be a perfect selection for kind of deep dive theological kind of cultural questioning, just because he has the answers to all of the things that you and I kind of discuss on a pretty regular basis, and we have a pretty good grip on it. But to have it confirmed by somebody who is without a doubt probably the most I want to say skilled and educated and learned man in those kind of fields that I personally know and see on a regular basis, I think. And he's fascinating. He's got a good sense of humor. So I think he would make a really good guest.
Yeah, I would love to set that up too. So if y'all are just tuning in live, we're going to have a few guests, at least on the horizon. Like, I'm not really stepping on the gas pedal and trying to put a whole book series together we're going to dig through. We are just 2 dudes talking about shit as it comes, more or less. Like, I've known you the entirety of my adult life and some of my troubled youth, we should say, I guess. But yeah, man, we're just figuring it out. So we got a movie review, and what else? You had some other stuff you wanted to talk about besides
I really want to I want to kind of explore the horizon and of what we see coming down the pike, and a revisiting of a system of lockdown that seems to be rearing its ugly head again, and I want to explore how you feel about it. If you think that we're going to be seeing the same levels of kind of capitulation, or if there's going to be pushback in a more kind of grandiose sense, and what that really realistically looks like if they do indeed decide to try to throw down a whole new level of what I thought we'd all kind of come collectively, either begrudgingly or since the beginning, had all kind of collectively agreed, that wasn't a really good idea.
Yeah.
And I thought we were there. I thought that as a country we were there. But my faith in humanity is so desperately low right now that I honestly feel like we're not going to be resisting in the way that I think that a lot of people think that we are. I think it's going to be as lockdown as it was last time, or worse. And I think people are going to give into it a lot more. And I don't know why. It's a gut feeling. I don't know. The way that I've seen people act in the last 3 years, I feel like that I give the general masses of humanity too much credit for bravery and for not just not wanting to rock the boat.
Yeah.
They just wanted, get along to get along. And I think that both sides are even more ardently kind of in their corners, and I think that they're more steadfast than they ever were before. So I was kind of curious as to how you thought about that.
I'll try to unpack. That's a lot to unpack. I'll try to come through it as best sequentially as I can possibly provide you. So on the one hand, my perspective is a little different. I moved from Western Washington to Southern Nevada. So the geography, the constituent base, everything's a little different down here than it was where I moved from.
For sure.
I also note two big factors as I kind of go through this that are top of mind. One, Las Vegas, for example, cannot withstand another out and out lockdown financially.
Agreed.
I remember when I took that big drive where I was like, I'm going to work from truck for a month and figure out my plan. Either I commit where I'm at and figure it the fuck out, or I need to plant roots, but not here. And so it took me a month. I formulated a plan that I gave myself 1 year. Exactly 1 year later, I moved. So it took a little while. The thing I noticed on that trip, and why I mention it, is when I got to Las Vegas, I had stayed in the Park MGM, which is a cigarette-free establishment. It was like the Monte Carlo that they had just remodeled and all that. It was the first smoke-free environment. And it's hilarious because as I vape now, it's like I can't stand being around cigarettes. My eyes start burning, and it's like, how did I do that for fucking almost 2 decades, So anyway, I'm there, and the suites were $25 a night. I mean, they were like, get back to Las Vegas. We're dying. Please, come on back. We'll send you out in shifts to the pool if we have to. So that's one factor. The second factor is the people here are more active in talking about their stances one way or the other versus everyone just not making eye contact, putting their mask on, doing whatever they got to do. Here's how I think that's going to work. Right. I guess the third and final factor is humans are, how do I say that? Humans, what's the level that I break this into? Americans are primarily pretty lazy. Like if we can cut corners and throw a mask on and go get butt wipe, we're going to go do that shit and get the fuck on with our day. They're not going to bring ideology into the fact that they're hungry and need to go grocery shopping. So this is how I think it's going to go. I think for where I'm at, people are primarily not going to give a shit, and they're just going to go out and about until it is left to the private institution that opens their doors to sell you products and services that mandate whether or not in order to set foot in their threshold, you have to comply with CDC rules. And then people will either comply or they'll say, fuck you, and they won't. And they're going to turn to Amazon home food deliveries and stuff from, Amazon Fresh and Whole Foods and all the subsidiaries that they own. The issue with that's different this time around is inflation is much higher, and that shit is very fucking expensive. To have, a week's worth of groceries delivered to your door is a very good $250 to $400 maybe for, a week, 2 weeks worth of groceries, plus the tip the driver, they're out working too, plus whatever else. So it's eventually, depending on the length of the lockdown,
huge added expense to just.
Yeah, I mean, consider when I was in Washington, dude, they said, well, all these extra service drivers are going to be congesting our roads. Hilariously, everyone is locked down. No one can drive. There was nobody on the roads except for the people delivering goods. So they instituted a tax for that in King County. So we got to pay extra money.
Naturally.
This is a true story. I was with somebody in my apartment we were joking around that neither one of us had ever tried the McRib sandwich. And during the pandemic, the McRib sandwich made a comeback. We're like, let's just order a Grubhub or a whatever Uber Eats or something. So I want you to guess my bill total to have 2 McRib sandwiches, 1 small fry, and 2 medium soft drinks. What do you think that bill was when it got to my door?
So 2 McRibs, which I don't know, given the time frame.
Yeah, they were
What are those?
coming back and on special.
I'm going to be right. So I'm going to be. I'm probably going to estimate a little on the high side just for the sake of what we're doing here, but I would say each one of those McRib sandwiches, like $6 each, and then you got a French fry, let's say on the high side, even if it's a small, like $3. So, and then you said 2 drinks. Were they large or
2 medium
what
soft drinks?
2 medium soft drinks. Okay. Let's $2 each. So
Sure.
What's that? 12. 15, $20.
Yeah.
22 after tax, and then 25 total for delivery and all that.
That would be great if it wasn't
So-
$63.
What?
Yep. That's a true fucking story.
How?
And we both looked at that and went, this is fucking absurd. We laughed. We're like, we're going to try the sandwich.
$63.
We're in all weekend. Let's just pay the expense and get through it. It was $63 to have it delivered. Now inflation's up, right?
For McDonald's.
For 2 sandwiches at McDonald's, a small fry and 2 medium drinks was $63 delivered
Where,
in King County.
did you get a breakdown? Like how
Yeah,
much was
city fee, convenience tax, state or city tax for the transpo thing. Then they did the gratuity on top of all of that, which I think we tipped them like $5 or $6 for the drive, basically. So it was like $58 or something before tip or whatever. And then the Seattle delivery tax or whatever the case was on top of that, plus the Uber Eats or whoever delivered it, Grubhub, I don't remember, their service fee on top of all that. And then they taxed the aggregate, not the items of the food that were at the top of the order. They taxed against the aggregate to just crush as much money on top of that. It was $63 for 2
they
sandwiches.
tax on top of tax?
Yeah.
They tax.
They taxed the total of the city tax on top of that. And I'm like, if it's a penny for your thoughts,
I shouldn't,
and you're not allowed to put in your 2 cents,
surprised.
somebody's making a penny, right? You got to put in your 2 cents, and it's a penny for your thoughts. Someone's making that penny. And so let's boil it back down. So here we are. If this really truly is like nationwide, we go back to the CDC well, and everyone's feeding us all this information. I earnestly think where I'm at, people are probably not going to give a shit, but it's going to be up to the institution on whether they let them in or not. And on a long enough timeline, some of these larger casinos in Vegas, which is nearby, they're going to have to open the doors and find the least intrusive bottom line. We're complying with what we're supposed to, eligibility to let people come in and spend money, or the economy up there is going to collapse. And then that's going to cascade around the outside. So, but humans are lazy.
Or you find that some businesses just plain and simply just won't do it.
There'll be that factor too.
They're
you need to go buy some ammo.
We can't survive.
Yeah. You're not going to run into a mask wearing ammo salesman.
Just your regular kind of grocery stores and stuff. They're going to go, we're not going to be able to survive this again.
Right.
So it's going to be split down the middle. You're going to have some that are like financially in the black and doing okay, and kind of bigger box stores that'll be like, you have to. We feel it's the right thing to do.
And the restaurants that won't let you in because you don't have your vaccine card handy or whatever, those guys aren't going to make it, because that's exactly how Seattle went,
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. Now, being where I'm at, we have a very robust kind of community here of people who will not tolerate this. And I think a lot of the businesses, so, after 2 years, once it was all said and done, 2 years of news of all the businesses that went the way of the dodo bird due to the lockdowns and such, they're terrified that that's going to happen again. So they're going to weigh the cost analysis on whether or not they should even implement any of these things, especially if the government isn't pushing it. And I think it's going to go down to state level. I think each governor is going to be made a hero or a villain by October. By October, if they start implementing this in the middle of September, like they have have suggested and how things are starting to roll through. You know, Biden today said he's not going to be doing any appearances without a mask now because his wife got COVID again for the third time, even though she's fully boosted and, you know, vaccinated and boosted. You know, it's her third round with COVID. And so, and Whoopi Goldberg, you know, you're starting to see high influence people starting to make news splashes with the fact that they are now trucking out this new COVID when they, you know, and they've already got the new vaccine all ready to roll, even though it wasn't tested at all. Or and then you hear, you know, Canada pushing through on this, and all of the news is starting to kind of really push for the fact that it's not COVID season. We're coming up on election season. Right. And so that is actually where this COVID's coming from. And I think there's enough people that recognize that will push back. But I think that the pushback of the pushback is actually going to be even louder this time. So I think we're going to see a lot more physical conflict between people who are going to be pushing back and then the people who are going to be pushing back on the people. And it's going to be a wild time for TikTok. It's going to be a wild time for YouTube. It's going to be a wild time for short clip videos of people fighting over masks, even more so than it already was. And people, I think it's going to get real litigious shortly thereafter. I think people are going to start suing businesses and suing each other.
I can't,
and I think ultimately that's the goal.
I can't imagine how people in Australia are going to go through what they went through again after all that, getting beat in the streets, like the, you know, the
taking
riot gear
camps.
Like, wow, dude. And, you know, I kind of chuckle because my gut instinct to rebut what you said would be, I mean, all the aggressive people are the constitution of the type of person that would be more aggressive in a confrontation is the person that's like, don't touch me, don't fuck with me, I'm not wearing a mask, versus a lot of the people. But that's my Seattle memory coming back into play, where it's just a bunch of, you know, people that just hunker in and don't look at you and whatever. So I don't know. I mean, I think you're right, specifically on the social media front. I mean, Twitter to me, or X or whatever, I've always said, you know, hey, there's more influencers than leaders in this country and abroad.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that Twitter has long been the bathroom wall of the internet, and people are like, oh, you know, because I said some shit that, you know, my friends got pissed about and lambasted me on and shit. And I'm like, well, it's, you know, to quote the great Dave Chappelle, Twitter's not a real place. So I don't care, you know, so, but I think you're right in that respect. I sure hope it doesn't come down to physical confrontations, but I do think the galvanization of how far things have become divisive and split, and no one wants to work together because it's either woke, or it's either racist, or it's, you know, whatever, insert an ism to the end of whatever you want to call somebody. I think that is way worse now.
The days of right. I think long past are the days of the middle ground.
And I mean,
I think that we,
you and I firmly agree that even if you're a moderate, like the Overton window has shifted so far left that you being in the middle is now so radically right by the things that you say. And you see that it pops up everywhere. But
100%.
I mean, remember when like September and October were just flu season because the kids were all back in school and it's just the germ breeding ground, and that, you know, that's just kind of how it's always.
Everyone got sick.
It's always been that way.
Yeah.
But now it's going to be, you know, there's going to be so many variants that come up, and you know, I'm a COVID survivor. I didn't get my jacket in the mail, but
I am too.
Like, it's not fun. I'll give you that. And I didn't go gallivanting around town with 103 fever, and, you know, like I stayed home, but I made it through and shit. So to me,
but it's the same thing that you do with the flu. You get the flu, you don't go to work, you stay home. Right. You know, like
well, I have no excuse not to go to work now. Or like, you better be dead if you're not coming.
Yeah.
But yeah, it could be, dude.
But yeah, like,
do you think that's going to happen
we're
where
treating
you're at?
this as if it's going to be different here, and it's going to be hard to tell. I would say, I think what we've got is a weird election this year that is going to dictate a lot of how it's going to come down from, the state level down through county level and down through city level. I know right now, like, the state level will push for it, but the county level will not. And in fact, they've kind of taken the reins away from the Panhandle Health Group here, which is good because those people don't know the first thing. I mean, they're clueless. But to the county level, we've actually got, a sheriff, and we've got a coroner, and we've got 2 commissioners that are actually probably going to be working with the side of not pushing any mandates at all.
Yeah.
And then, but down to the city level, the city of Coeur d'Alene specifically, which is kind of the hub of the area, and all the other surrounding towns and cities all kind of take the lead from whatever Coeur d'Alene does. They're in a unique position. So it's going to be really weird because 3 of them are up for election in November.
Mm-hmm.
3 of them really pushed not only for locking people down. One of them didn't. One of them is kind of riding the fence. But 2 of them specifically, like, asked to have people fined if they were seen walking around without a mask. And it didn't go over because it wasn't legal and they were overreaching. But so if the mask implementation comes up, it made them very unpopular with that decision. So they're trying to run for re-election right now. If they even put a mask on during, like, city council, like there was a city council meeting tonight, none of them are masked. But the minute it goes on, there's like 3 or 4 of them on that city council that immediately put them on. They're going to have a dilemma. They're going to have a dilemma on their hands of whether, because they're being like under a microscope watched right now. So like, it will literally, if they do it, then we'll start seeing probably a shift. But I think the pushback here is just going to be too heavy. They're going to be too afraid of the conflict. They don't want, on local level, they don't want the conflict. On a national level, they absolutely do. So it's going to be bubbles and pockets where you're going to see the pushback and cheering, and then you're going to see the lockdown and cheering, depending on what bubble and pocket you're going to be. It's just going to remain to see how many of the bubbles versus the pockets are really what, in an aggregate, tells us the direction of how the country's going. Over the course of time. We're not going to be able to see it instantaneously. It's going to be like, okay, we have 6 months of watching this go down. It's not working, or it's working kind of, and it's not working over here. So it's going to be an interesting kind of test. And I just wish that we didn't even have to do it. I don't want to waste time in this. Like, I've got stuff to do. I've got things, fortunately, it doesn't affect me personally that much due to the fact that I homeschool my kids. So I don't have to worry about it, the school system, even though they'll probably implement it, but that'll get really heated pretty quickly around here. I own my own business, and I won't be implementing any type of mask or vaccine mandate, obviously, in any capacity. So it won't really affect me. And in fact, it will probably, strangely, and I hate to say this, be a boon to my business. Because if everything else locks down, especially Washington, like, COVID was my busiest winter. The lockdown winter was far and away the busiest winter because we were the only ones open. And there were so many people who didn't care that they came flooding in my door. So I don't know. It's a big question mark. I really want to believe in the American spirit. I want to believe that Americans are different generationally from birth, that we have... we often get looked at as arrogant when we are in Europe or in South America or even Eastern Europe or wherever we go. Americans are kind of known for having an air apparent, an arrogant air about them. But I don't think that's really what it is. I think that other people in other parts of the world have never been able to recognize what the look, even on a subtle level or not so subtle level sometimes, the look of what a generationally born free human being actually looks
You
like.
can just damn near
And
taste
that
the
is the American
confidence.
spirit. Right. And it's not arrogance. It's just how somebody who has lived multi-generationally in the freest nation in the world, it's far less now than it was, before.
Right.
But, generationally, these people, growing up, you didn't have to think about whether or not you were allowed to say something or do something. We had very limited laws on crimes that were taken care of. But for the most part, the Constitution protected us generationally for a long period of time.
Right.
And so when we go into other places and we walk around and we come off, the plane or the boat or the out of the cab and we're walking through a restaurant, people automatically notice Americans just because of the way that they walk, the way that they hold themselves, their body language, and that is all due to that American spirit. I don't see that American spirit in the United States as much as I used to anymore.
I can agree with that.
I don't recognize it in people. So as much as I romantically want to believe that generational American spirit is going to push back on a tyrannical overreach of medical proportions that is just
it's
just
categorically absurd is what it is. And I think anytime a governing body can institute mandates that are not codified by laws because of the face of naming whatever the fuck it is a public health crisis. And COVID is not to be fucked with. I'm not downplaying the fact that people died and it was a serious thing, but it's the overblown to epic proportions level of indoctrination that we were fed over and over again by every media outlet and the CDC was categorically absurd. And I think hopefully I will try to take the silver lining approach and say that we can see through some of that, although it's become more divisive now than it was. And you can feel it in conversation with people. The one thing that really, there's just hasn't been enough time since the last lockdown to really study the effects of this. But you got to imagine, so let's try to do some math. It's late in the day, and 5 out of 4 kids are bad with fractions. So I'll try this out. But if you were a graduate in 2021, in 2022, so June 2022, so that means you were leaving your freshman year of high school and you spent 3/4 of your high school career in a mask or at home or both. And you got to forego a lot of the shit that most American teenage kids gets to do. You didn't get to go to the dance. There was no homecoming stuff. The basketball games didn't happen. The sporting events were basically gone. Like, what are the long-term psychological effects of those people entering adulthood, entering the workforce, entering real adult social situations, having to go to college now and interact with a bunch of other people that did not have what, in my opinion, were pretty formative 3 years of my life. I mean, junior high, it's very difficult because very hormonal and people make fun of each other and alliances are made, and which table you sit at lunch is the most important thing in your life. And then you get into high school and you start to expand a little bit and you get stretched by conflicts of opinion and stuff is different and influences are radicalized from the new cool word to say down to the latest trending whatever. And I wasn't in school for the social media era, right? I was already past that point. But I can't fathom the amount of stress on a kid of that age just from the social media era. My life, thank God, and Facebook was around, kind of, MySpace was definitely around, but my entire youth was not captured and recorded for me to relive for the rest of my adult fucking life, to be put on display or searchable by any modern search engine. That's stressful enough because the rules are different. Society is different. Then you add the isolation piece of that. So going back into it again, like I can't imagine. We haven't had a long enough time to know what these kids are going to grow into adults like. We don't know. There's just
And you haven't even. You're just talking about the teenagers too.
that's
But
just
you're talking
one,
about
that's
that
right. One pocket of
microcosm
people.
of just that, and that little ripple is going to have. We're going to see that run through time.
Yeah.
But there's even a bigger one because you're looking at a whole couple of years of kids who, between the preschool and second grade, who learn social cues off of facial expressions,
Right.
learn communication off of facial expressions, and they are wildly behind even now. Teachers have already started to recognize, I have a bunch of teacher friends, and they've already recognized, like, these kids don't know how to read emotions. They don't know how to understand. Their communication and their verbal communication is so far behind because they haven't seen the lip movements
Right.
of people using words that they've never
Yeah,
heard
'cause
before. The development
Interacting
is
with their
just
own
been
friends was a
completely
lot
stunted.
like this. That's pretty much what
Yeah.
they got the whole time.
Yeah. And so they don't understand that developmental age, that doesn't come back. So you've skipped over that. So you're going to have this weird ripple
Right.
of kids that are incapable, and they're going to
And that's what I'm driving toward. These kids
really
are now
have
going
an
to start.
impact.
They're going to start entering the workforce, get their first burger flipping job. They're in the service industry. They're going to be the kids showing you which aisle something's on, or making your coffee for you in the morning and shit. And like, I don't know, because we all started out that way. I'm not saying they're not going to go on to college and get white collar jobs. Like, you know what I mean? We all had
right.
summer jobs and shit. To me, I find that going to be a real fascinating experiment. But if we continue to duplicate this over and over again, like whatever the early signs of oh fuck that are playing out in people's inability to communicate in an already polarized country that we're in,
They
is
already
going
have
to
a
be
solution for that.
very, very, very challenging, I think, for us. What's the solution?
Oh, they're automating all those jobs that you just mentioned. These kids
Right.
are all just going to try to get TikTok famous. But those jobs are going to be AI jobs. They're going to be automated jobs, and they're vastly and rapidly moving towards that expansion of eliminating all those teenagers' jobs, because they know that these kids aren't going to be like. I had an instance at the grocery store the other day that was telling of this generation. This girl must have been maybe a year or two out of high school, and all the grocery stores around here, but I'm assuming on a national level, are all understaffed because nobody really wants to work now because they all got paid to stay home for a long time and other contributing factors. But this one girl, I was looking for eye solution. Erin had something in her eye, and we kind of go to the organic section, but they've kind of merged everything into this one store where all the organic stuff is now. And so now I don't know where anything's at. So I'm going over there, and I have my daughter with me, and we're looking, and it's just this wall of like, I don't know, eye care stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And there's this girl, and she's got,
how many flavors of Visine can you really have on one wall?
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Yeah. So this girl is got, she's standing over here, and she's got, faded like purple hair, and she's unpacking boxes, and I'm as friendly as it can be in any social setting. And I'm like, excuse me, can you help me? I'm looking for such and such, and it's for this. My wife's got something in her eye, and we just need an eye flush, but we're looking for, and I'm trying to explain it. And then I was like, do you know if you have any of that? And she just sits there with this look of like, how dare you talk to me?
Right.
And just sits there with her mouth open, and she goes, what? And I was like, you know what? Never mind. And I just turned and started looking again for myself. And she sat there and she stared at me, and then she turned around without a word and just went back to unpacking boxes. And she was just grumbling, like cussing at me under her breath. And as we're leaving, like, she mumbled something, and I didn't hear it, but my daughter did. And she turned around, she just stopped and stared at her like, what is wrong with you? And the girl just like, and then just walked away. And I'm like, I don't care how bad of a day you're having.
Right.
Like, this is insane that this is the level. And I have been having more and more similar interactions with people of a particular age range in whatever workforce environment that we're in. That being said, I ended up tattooing another older woman who worked at that very same store. I just started to explain the situation and she knew exactly who I was talking about.
Fucking
she was, oh yeah, she's
goddamn
like that all the
Chelsea.
time.
Right.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And she knew immediately. And it was very telling of the fact that these jobs, I mean, how long are they going to hire these type of kids or people for that matter? Because, they're all early adults. How long are they going to hire these kids, not get their money's worth out of them because they only half-ass the jobs, and then also treat all of their customers bad? So they're having to field complaints, they're having to field all these things before they just absolutely submit to doing all of the automation, because it's just, it's easier on payroll. I don't have to deal with these people. These people are, and then before you know it, like, that's where we're going to be within a matter of years.
So
we've through the masking.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I find a specific fascination with generational gaps in the communication styles, particularly in the workplace. And one of the things that I brought up in a roundtable early in my career was I was like, hey, the boomer boss versus the millennial up and coming whatever. How do we communicate better? We're not speaking the same language. It's like, look, technology is one side of this, right? But the other side is understanding that there is a difference. And I don't think people that grew up in this environment understand that one, and vice versa. Or they were too busy at work to adapt. Some have, some haven't. Example of this would be, the pinnacle technological achievement was extremely linear in production in the boomer generation. It was the assembly line. You had a plan, you could see something from the start, you could watch it come together, you could see it finish, you can optimize the best you can, you could forecast against that, and you actually had a rhythm to your production. Take that same person and drop them into a place where someone who has to present a finished product 5 minutes before it's presented can have 19 contributors from all over the world simultaneously editing a document in real time or updating stuff. Like, they view that as chaotic, underprepared, not so. To them, there's a gap there, right? And there was a real difference, and I think we've grown past that a little bit. But interpersonally, that's going to be really, really different, especially in the service industry, because to your point, you're going to have to automate as much of that as you can, or make it incumbent on the consumer to figure it out themselves, which is one thing I kind of don't like. And maybe this is me becoming a crotchety old man, and I'll accept that. But I don't like the self-checkout.
I don't either.
I love it if I have a Gatorade in one hand and a stick of gum in the other hand, and I need to get in and get out because I'm thirsty. Great, I can do that. When I have like a full cart of groceries and shit, and then I have to bag it and wait for someone to come over and scan, and then retar the scale, and then I have to pull all the stuff off, then reload it, and they have to come over and scan it. It's like, why aren't you just scanning stuff and you and me can put it in bags together? We could make this work. I've seen this before. I could then put it in my cart. It'd be so much more efficient if we work together on this.
Single-handedly keep the service industry alive by participating in those people, that interaction. I will go to the bank teller. I will go to the grocery store.
And those are the most fun conversations you'll have throughout the day, by the way. If you genuinely just want to get to know somebody in 2 minutes or less while they're ringing your groceries or they're doing a transaction, it's awesome. So that might be me getting old, but I think the alternative is more shit like the automated checkout is going to be incumbent on us. Do it yourself. Just, fly in there, grab it, check it out yourself, scan it. The return process will be some fucking bot that you have to go in and prove you bought it and what the UPC code is and give it to the drone that'll fly it. It's nonsense.
Yeah.
It's
well, you mentioned
too efficient.
Something earlier. Yeah. You mentioned something earlier about like the communication gap.
Big time. It was very real.
But you said something very interesting, and I want to kind of get your take on this.
Sure.
Because you were like the boomer bosses and then the millennial bosses, and how even productivity wise, they're not on the same page, but massively on a communication level that they're not on the same page.
Because they're looking at the same thing from two different lenses, basically. Yeah.
Right, absolutely. But there's a missing lens. And it's funny that it often and almost every time gets skipped over. There's a generation right in between those two generations. There's Gen X. And that's the bridge generation that understands both sides and should have been part of that implementation story, but isn't on a global scale. And I'm wondering why. I'm wondering, where are Gen X within the gap from the boomers who are running things to the millennials that are taking things over? What happened to Gen X?
Yeah.
Like we never talk about them. They're always let off the hook when everyone's like, I hate millennials or I hate boomers. Right. Gen X is always left out of it. Obviously, that's the joke. That's the meme.
I think it's because they're all disaffected Gen Xers that have goatees and they're wearing plaid and they're listening to Pearl Jam and shit still, you know? So they just don't count.
How dare you?
We close that page in the annals of history. That chapter's closed, sir. No, here's the thing, because I am mathematically one of the earlier millennials, but I identify with how I was raised very much with Gen X lifestyle. That's, you know, both my brothers were as well. I think the attitude is there to some degree. I don't have that odd self-entitlement sense that is kind of a meme for a reason within the millennial generation. We do have some Gen Xer bosses, and they're the easiest ones to transcribe ideas and concepts to, which I find fascinating as well. So if I have something in the ethereal mindset of like, I have this outlandish fucking idea, and not just to make it to a production environment, but to make it a conversational topic, I need to find a way to shape this with not just maximum appeal, but maximum interaction. Because if it's a dog shit idea, I want us to all collectively come to that together. How do we do that? They're the best at parsing through all the bullshit, finding what relates to, you know, company policy, what relates to, interdepartmental policy with the boomers that are still kind of running in some of those areas, tie everything off with what's going to be most attractive to millennial plus Gen Z, which is now in the workforce where I'm at too. They're the best at that. So I don't know. And I think that's something I should probably personally explore a little bit more, because it is something I've noticed that I'm like, here comes Gen X off the top rope, right?
Yeah. Do you think
I do find Gen Xers in tradecraft way more, by the way. Just as an aside, that is something that I have noted down. The tradecraft jobs are dominated by Gen Xers.
That's very true, because they're like, just keep me away from people.
Well, even yourself.
Just let me do tradecraft.
Your job is predicated on being around people, and there are more probably in your generation in that industry actively, at least established ones, not up and comers and stuff, than probably any other generation. Similarly with,
I would agree,
you know, machine shops and bakeries, and like a lot of Gen Xers are in tradecraft, dominating those areas. My one-man observation. I don't have statistics for that, so don't crucify me on that. Do you think,
though, that if you light a fire, if you can find a way to light a fire under the ass of Gen X and make them less disaffected, that they could be the ones to save the planet?
Yeah, I do in some ways. And I know you're kind of being sarcastic a little bit, but at the end of the day, at the end of the day, yes, if the divisiveness of today's culture becomes such a positive feedback loop that it's just commonplace to disagree because of a one-word association without like losing the meaning of what you're fighting for, right? I think it would take Gen X to be like, hey, we can speak plainly, clearly, directly to the point, and quite effectively on both sides, and kind of be the adult in the room that kind of knocks the heads together of the other generations more or less and says, hey, this is what it is. I think we're seeing a rise of that in politics a little bit. They're take no bullshit generation. Yeah.
They're just,
but
like,
you
clean
also
cut. Let's just get to the point.
You also have that a bit of a generational distrust in the system at large. There were not a lot of scholarship
Absolutely.
opportunities when you went to school or had the ability to go to school. There weren't a lot of media level jobs. There wasn't the explosion of mass media, whether it was cable or otherwise, where you could get plugged into. So
Right.
the banks were collapsing. There was a lot, the pre-housing crisis. Inflation was out of control in the 1980s and shit. Even in places like Canada and stuff. So there's an intrinsic distrust of the man from your generation that's pretty founded and warranted. So whether or not,
it's ingrained in me.
yeah, and I think that's okay. I think that's acceptable. It's just what would it take to get more involvement and more excitement and more let's bring some direct approaches. I'm not sure, because we'll need to go case by case on that, right? Politics, religion,
Right.
socioeconomics, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think the answer is yes in there somewhere. I just don't know how to get to it quite yet. But I mean, I know you're joking, but honestly, I kind of think you're onto something for sure.
And that's the thing, is that in the dark humor of it, there is some truth. There's some
Right.
truth to the fact that these people have been disconnected by their own free will. They're like, man, this world screwed our whole generation. We're going to go do our own thing.
Mm-hmm.
And to try to get them back into the fold to fix the messes of two other generations is a pretty monumental task. But I think that they're the only ones that really have the faculties and the capability of doing it,
Right.
because of the fact that they understand both sides so well and can be that bridge generation, and the kind of no nonsense kind of, well, I just got to do it because
Right.
no one else is going to do it for us. That kind of attitude. And it's going to be annoying because they're sarcastic assholes, all of them. And they're going to be like, oh, yeah, okay, boomer. Oh, yeah, millennial, whatever,
Right.
and they're going to go, both of you are wrong. Let's do the right thing. Here's a plan. What do you think? And it's going to be kind of an obnoxious tone to the whole thing if it ever does happen. But I think that they're the only ones with the tool bag to do it. And right now, at least.
Probably.
So-
I mean, if there was a wide swath of, we need to make social change and we need to find people that are going to bridge all the gaps because we have to come up with an answer by midnight or
Right.
the sky will fall kind of thing, I think you're right. Honestly,
Yeah.
I think it would take, because yours is the last of the pull yourself up by your bootstraps type of generation, more or less. I think the
Latchkey kids and all of it.
yeah, dude. I think the millennial, everything crumbled around. The broken home was commonplace. It wasn't just something that was disproportionate. It was common. The distrust because of media, the rise of responsibility of the internet creation and participation of that, the rise of social media in seeing that some of the greatest social engineering experiments are sites like Twitter or X or whatever, where people come
Right.
together with zero common goal. They're just there. Let's see what happens. And we're seeing that play out in
Right.
real time. It makes one rely on oneself, which is something I do identify with as part of my broken millennial generation. All I have is me,
Right.
So yeah, I can see there's a real difference there, societally speaking. But you raise a couple of good points. I would like to unpack that further because I do have access to some analytics to that front, at least in my own workplace. But
Cool.
as you mention it, it's like, yeah,
It'd be
actually, the Gen Xers are the ones that help me bridge all the gaps at work more often than not. I did want to interrupt
Yeah.
this podcast a little bit with America's favorite segment. It's Defending Woke Logic. It's back. That's right. Defending Woke Logic is here,
I
everybody.
love this.
So gather
Yes.
around, get a hot chocolate, everyone, just for a minute. We're going to turn our attention to Canada just for a moment. Recently, the Bank of Canada predicted a 40% rise.
America's hat.
America's top hat. They're great. Maple syrup. It's
Yeah.
awesome. Poutine.
Yep.
Learn that word. You're going to need it. So the Bank of Canada predicts a 40% rise in mortgage payments under Justin Trudeau's economic policies that they're attempting to renew, and that aims to raise the inflation yet again. So the new political opposition leader, Pierre Poilievre, I think I pronounced that wrong, pointed out in a recent debate, hey, man, people are going to sit down at the dinner table tonight and tell their kids we have to sell our home. Trudeau responded in the opposition and says, hey, you guys failed to see that there are fires raging in Canada, and you fail to recognize that climate change is real, to a standing ovation. Good enough for me. That's... Dams, you're absolutely right. The climate change is the reason for these mortgage rate hikes, and I love it. Trudeau, let's go, man. Mind blown.
Yeah, it's you failed to
you can't argue that logic.
Change. So because of that, it's still your fault,
right?
That we're all going to lose our homes,
and
even though it's really a banking crisis that also you caused.
Yeah.
So awesome, yeah. But man, just whatever it takes, I guess, right?
Straight down the middle. That's defending woke logic. I think it's bulletproof, is what I think. And
spitting a spitball right in Captain Canadian Castro's face,
bro. I thought brain matter was going to come out of my ear. I rewatched that clip 6 times and went, wait. He doesn't even address the question, let alone answer it. He doesn't even fucking acknowledge it. Yeah, it was a good time.
Wow.
And that's defending woke logic this week. Anyway, we're back to our regularly scheduled podcast. I'm going to come up with another topic. I was inspired by some other stuff I heard. But at the end of maybe a quarter or a season or a year or every 10 episodes or whatever we want to do, I think we need to, I'm just going to outright plagiarize this from other shows. We need to have a take purge. All these takes that we're brewing in our head, all these, whether it's credible, non-credible, left-leaning, right-leaning, we just need to get them off our chest and just purge them out there. So for 20 minutes of the pod, we're going to have a start siren and a stop siren for when the purge commences and when it ends. And then everything we say is just in the aether, and we can cleanse our souls and we can go on with our day. And I think we should do something like that.
Oh,
I think we should have a take purge.
I would absolutely do that.
Just like the movie.
I might get in trouble within that segment, but I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Well, it's not real for that 20 minutes. There's no against the law. You can't go to jail for it. It's the purge. Nothing's off limits.
I love this idea.
And then it's done. When that siren goes, who knows what happened? We're not liable for it. It's on the internet forever and shit. But it's a take purge, right? You don't have to believe in what you're saying. Yeah. You just need to get it off your chest. So
I really like this concept. I think I can get on board with it.
We're workshopping this live, by the way.
Yeah.
A take purge, dude. 30 minutes of unrequited saying shit. Yeah.
Throwing it at the wall.
Yeah.
Whatever happens.
See what sticks. No one can get hurt if it's not real during the purge, man. We take we're no loss of reputation or credibility.
Verbal murder.
Yeah. No loss of reputation or credibility. It's a purge moment.
Yeah.
I think we should do something like that.
So when they come after me, I'd be like, no, that doesn't count. It was in the purge segment. Sorry, no, that doesn't count.
Like our politicians say, wait.
Cancel me.
I didn't say that on the campaign trail. What I said was, because they're thinking we're not going to remember 3 years ago when they said some stuff. Yeah, but it'll be like a actual dedicated purge, like the movie. I'm in.
We'll have to, to make it in the purge segment is when the siren goes on, you'll have to change the color tone of the cameras, or like a filter, so that way anything that gets said in there, we're like, no, look, it was a blue screen.
I'll come up with something like counts. Occasionally, if there's a wildly over the top horseshit moment in life, you'll hear something like this, and then you'll know what we're talking about is horseshit. Wait, but at the end, we'll get a siren or something, and we'll each just go and we'll get something off our chest, and you'll be like, all right, Angel, what's the first purge? And I'll be like,
can I request that it says the purge hour or purge time?
Of course.
In rainbow writing above my head up here, just so that way.
Just like a dancing animated rainbow of thought bubble or something, like reading rainbow style if you want it to be, whatever the case is. Yeah.
This is perfect. Butterflies and like a unicorn jumping over me every once in a while, and I'm just like letting it rip. That would be great.
You'll be like, hey, start the purge, and I'll be like, maybe he did commit suicide. Maybe the whole Epstein thing is as it was on its face. We just the cameras were out, and probably he had a lot going on, high stress. No proof. He probably did. And then after the siren ends, that didn't matter. That wasn't real. I didn't say any of that. Well, I think we should. Yeah, maybe we'll work on that. I like
this segment. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
So coming soon.
Coming soon. I want to talk. Like, I saw a really. Speaking of purging things, I would love to purge this out of my memory, but unfortunately, that is not possible. I once again watched another movie.
Yes.
And I get about one good, like, I have enough time for like one movie a week. I rarely get to go to the movie theaters anymore, but like, I'll find one night where I go to bed a little earlier. My wife's uninterested and goes to sleep, and I get to watch one movie.
Sure.
And last week I got to watch the amazing Dungeons and Dragons film that was fantastic. However, this week I knew what I was getting into, but I had to watch it, and it was worse than I thought. And it was the new Flash film. Have you seen this?
I have. Yep.
Calling it a film is a bit of a stretch. It was the first hour and 15 minutes or 20 minutes was horribly boring. It was so boring. It was like, I was like, what is going on? When is something going to happen?
Yeah.
I don't really care. Like the hospital scene took way longer than it should have, but that wasn't even the worst part about it. The worst part about it was none of the story made sense, but the acting was high school level, over the top. Like, even for a superhero movie, you don't really expect much. But it was that whole movie was phoned in. All of the dialogue was phoned in. All of the cameos were phoned in. And the one saving grace that they put in the movie was they brought Michael Keaton back in this kind of alternate universe version of his Batman.
Yeah.
And which was fun, except for they couldn't help themselves with the piss poor writing. And they made him repeat half of his lines from the original Batman movie, which had to have been like, Michael Keaton had to have been going, really? Like, you're bringing me back for
at one
this,
point
for me to repeat my damn lines?
At one point, I was like, I wonder if he's got an earwig in, and they're actually saying his lines in his ear live, and he's just repeating them, kind of thing. That's kind of how bad it was. I'm like, he has enough mental faculties. Like, I've watched interviews promoting this movie with him. Like, he's okay, so it's not that. Like, because kind of famously, like, actors like Dolph Lundgren and stuff use earwigs a lot, where they're just like, what do you mean I'm bad? And they just say stuff because they just don't give a fuck. They're just there because they are built like Schwarzenegger or Dolph Lundgren, right? But to your point, and it was kind of challenging to divorce the Ezra Miller stuff from the movie itself, because that's why it took so long to come out. They weren't sure if they could even release it. He was on some weird shit. You could tell he was on some weird shit.
Him the entire time. Yeah, he's a creep in the movie.
Yeah, you could tell he was on some shit when they shot that movie. 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't like it.
It was hard to not focus on it.
Right.
Yeah, it was hard not to focus on the fact that the kid was obviously off. Like, I've seen him in other films, earlier films, when he was in like the Harry Potter stuff that he was in, the spin-off stuff, and some other things. And this was like way outside of his normal capacity to act. And it was as if they were trying to rein in a kid and make him say a bunch of dumb lines when he was obviously inebriated on a bunch of different things. And it felt like he was sweating because of drug use through the whole movie,
Right.
and nothing he said made sense. And they're like, I guess cut. Like that's just going to have to do every line he said. And unless the movie was going to be 50 takes for each scene, because they're just like, we're just struggling with this kid, but he's the one that they didn't fire for whatever reason, so we have to continue on with this. But like the entirety of the story didn't even matter. Like I didn't have any connection to it.
It was bad. And I wonder,
the
like,
CGI was terrible.
Was the writer's strike going on when they were shooting that and doing the dailies and stuff like that, in addition to all this bullshit?
Nope.
Or, so, because that closed like a full year before they released it, right? Post production and all that stuff. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. And like, I tried to, the way I thought about it,
weird. Like,
yeah, the way I thought about it was like, all right, not every ensemble cast, because he was pretty good in the ensemble bits that he was the Flash in, because he only had a grand total of 4.5 minutes of screen time with lines, right? Like he wasn't a central figure. And it's like, you know, you're going to get a spin-off movie. Maybe some of these actors and or characters aren't good in standalone films. I've kind of seen that with Marvel. There's this new block of Marvel movies I don't relate to at all. I don't give a shit about Moon Knight. It makes no sense. I don't like it. It's just theater that I do. I love the actor, the guy that plays that dude, but whatever. So I was like, maybe he's just bad for a standalone.
But that's a different thing.
I was like, maybe he's just not cut out for this, but I don't think it was that. I think it was honestly the shit that he was up to. I think it was the drugs involved and the direction they took the storyline, which didn't make a lot of sense to me. I don't know how they're going to launch a new DC universe when there are so many variations of Batman right now, and they fired Superman, who was the last saving grace. Like the whole redemption arc of the fucking Black Adam movie was the final cut scene when what's his name, the Superman actor, I always forget his name, he plays in The Witcher 2.
Henry Cavill.
When he walks in, he's
Cavill.
like, we should talk. And I'm like, yes, they're gonna actually, like, that's gone. So I don't know what the fuck they're gonna do. I have no idea what they're gonna do.
I honestly, I just don't even care anymore. But it was, I thought it was going to be an easy watch, and you know, something that was maybe bad but got a worse rap than I had, you know, seen online and stuff, that like people were just dogpiling it for whatever reason.
Yeah, because people shit all over the Suicide Squad, and I actually enjoyed that first one. I was like, this is actually kind of a fun story. I actually
enjoyed the second one even more.
Yeah, I liked. I think the woman that plays Amanda Waller was born to play Amanda Waller. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, both those movies were fun. Yeah. Fun at the very least. They were great kind of ensemble shoot 'em up movies.
Right.
I love that kind of simple genre, but they're masterfully done in a way that the humor hits right. That's the other thing. The humor was weird in The Flash. It was just weird humor. Did you see the end credit scene? Did you see the end credit scene?
I didn't stay for it. I was disgusted. I was just like, I'm out. Yeah.
It was the weirdest end credit scene I've ever seen. It involved Aquaman being blasted drunk and falling.
Oh no, I did see
into a puddle.
On
the sidewalk.
I think I watched it on YouTube afterwards. Yeah, I did see that.
Yeah, and none of it made sense. It wasn't connected to the movie. It didn't lead you into the direction of another movie. It was just, hey, look at Aquaman being drunk and the Flash going, oh well, and then walking back to his apartment and leaving him in a puddle. Like, what was the point of even filming that? It didn't make any sense. But the whole, you know, the Suicide Squad movies, I think were both really well done. There's a spin-off show with Peacemaker. I don't know if you've seen any of that.
Saw the preview.
And it's okay. It's pretty sophomoric in tone. Like it's pretty like juvenile humor. It is kind of fun, but also it is a spin-off, you know, where the other two movies actually I think were probably some of the better pieces that have come out of the DC universe in some time, and I don't think we're going to see
here's
much
the hill
good come out of them.
Here's the hill I'm going to die on, and I already know that it's not part of the DC Extended Universe, the DCEU, because they're trying to replicate the Marvel big blocks, right? The Batman with Robert Pattinson, really good.
Yeah.
I really, really like that movie. And I really like the fact that, who's our boy that was in Westworld? I'm just not good with names this late in the day. He plays James Gordon in that movie, and he's fucking awesome. He's the lead scientist guy in Westworld.
I know who.
With the glasses, dude.
Oh, man. Yep.
Anyway.
I know who you're talking about. He's also in the Hunger Games movies and many other things. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So if you haven't seen, and I ate so much fucking crow when I was like, the dude from A Knight's Tale is going to be the Joker? Fuck this movie. When Nolan did the, the Joker. And I was like, okay, I'm dead wrong. That was one of the awesomest pieces of cinema I've seen in like 10 years.
I was right there with you. I did the same thing.
And I'm like, all right, I'd be willing to be wrong on that. I'm not a huge Robert Pattinson or Robert Battinson fan, but that whole movie in its totality with the ensemble cast, because the dude that does the voice of Smeagol and the Gollum and stuff, Andy Serkis, he plays Alfred.
Yeah.
Like, way weird take, but it very, very, very dark, not just in tone, but like actual cinematics are extremely dark. Really good, dude. I was like, this better be at least a spin-off standalone trilogy. If it's announced it won't be part of the DCEU, I would love for that to be like the Nolan trilogy that kind of just sits in the clouds over in their own respective areas. Please make 2 more of those.
Number 2's coming out.
Yeah, please finish this thought.
Number 2's coming out, and they're doing Mr. Freeze.
Because if you haven't seen the first one, it's really, really good. Like, suspend everything you know about all the stuff and just sit there and watch it. It's tons of good news. And the guy that plays the Penguin, I didn't even recognize him either.
Colin
Farrell with all the makeup and shit. They killed it with him. Yeah. I just thought it was really well thought out.
He did great.
Yeah.
There were
Batman purists are like,
I liked it, but I don't think I liked it as much. Well, I liked it, but I don't think I liked it as much as you, due to the fact that I really liked Robert Pattinson as Batman. I did not like him as Bruce Wayne. I agree with you. Yeah. Mopey and emo. Now, I think I would have liked more Penguin in this, but my biggest problem with it was great. And then it just kept going. And then when you thought the movie was done, then they flooded the city. And I'm like, you can't wrap this up in 10 minutes. They just flooded the city.
Right.
Like, and so it just kept kind of going, and I kept waiting for the end, and it made me anticipate the end due to time more than being pulled along in the adventure. I really enjoyed the beauty of the film. I thought it was wonderfully shot. Even like Bruce's house was like over the top, ornately gothic.
Right.
Like, if you watch him walk through the rooms, everything's like these crazy black gothic, like,
it's like a Transylvanian cathedral
things all over the place.
Like, So here's the piece. See if this resonates, because I agree with you to a point. The Bruce Wayne I always wanted, especially a younger one that's in year 1 experimenting with what Batman could be if I was to write it. I would want him to be dark and brooding and very moody and pissed off and very nonchalant about, I don't give a fuck about my wealth. That's what you're managing. I don't give a shit if they're coming over. You deal with it. Like, Pattinson's execution of that Bruce, I agree with you, kind of fell flat, because it was like, maybe if somebody else was playing it, I could see that part of Bruce being a little more relatable. But that is how I would have written it. Like, well, he's not going to be, Bruce Wayne billionaire. Both my parents are dead.
Right.
Like, that just happened within a factor of a few years. He's in his early adulthood, whatever. But maybe Robert Pattinson wasn't the best at executing that. I did like him as Batman in Batman, though, for sure. Like, I thought it was really good.
Yeah.
But to your point,
I think he did way better than I thought.
They got the right story arc and the right slice of time for Bruce, but it did kind of fall flat on that front for me a little bit. So
I think he should have developed his Bruce character a little bit more, and maybe he will in the next film. And I'll be, much like it will make me appreciate it. Hopefully, with the development of the second one.
Here's a fun fact about that movie.
I did happen to notice.
You know the brunette?
Yeah.
You know the brunette that's with John Turturro's character? She's on his arm a lot. She is also the one that Selena Kyle's character chases down and says, "What do you know about the girl?" or whatever. She's like, "Don't talk about it here," whatever. She has like 2-3 lines. She's basically an extra with a couple of lines. This real short brunette girl. That woman is my real estate lady's husband's little sister.
No kidding.
Yeah, he's like, actually, that's my sister in the movie. That one right there. That's her. I grew up with her. I was like, no way, really?
Wow.
Like, smallish world. Yeah.
That's crazy.
So I was like, oh, that's cool.
I'll have to look her up.
Yeah. Sorry.
So
sidetracking.
Don't, folks, don't go see or don't bother with The Flash. It's not worth your time. It doesn't add to the universe or take away from it. You literally can skip that movie and it's not going to affect how you view anything else. Just know that now there's the discovery of time travel and multiple universes. That's all you need to know. The rest of it can literally fall off and you'll never have to deal with it, and it doesn't matter. But I'm hoping to I got halfway through and I am hoping to finish it tonight. But I got halfway through there's a new Russell Crowe Exorcist movie that I've been watching.
Yeah, The Pope's Exorcist.
The Pope's Exorcist.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
I got halfway through that and fell asleep.
I saw that card pop up. You fell asleep through shit like that? See, I saw the card pop up and I was like, that's a hard no.
I'm old.
I can't, dude. I'd be crying and shit. It'd be bad. Yeah.
Yeah. I know you're not into those ones that.
Nope.
Yeah, I fell asleep. It was good up until the point, because anything Russell Crowe touches is going to be at least acted well and it's going to have substance to it. So, and normally I skip the Exorcist type films because there's the Exorcism of Emily Rose or any of those. They're really boring to me because it's essentially just like, cookie cutter exorcism films. This one, because of his involvement in it, is the only one that I've actually had an interest in watching because he picks good projects. And I figured that he wasn't going to put his stamp on just your average exorcism film. So I was like, I'll give it a shot.
Not your run-of-the-mill demonic possession. Not when Russell Crowe's involved in this, Johnson.
No.
Yeah.
I was hoping he'd go full Maximus, exorcism style.
Yeah.
But no.
Do you think when he takes the demon
he was
out?
310 to Yuma, right?
He was. Before he goes he sends the demon back to hell, he's like, do you think he gets in the demon's face and he's like, "Are you not entertained?" Stuff like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what I was hoping for. Or like if he was like the Texorcist and he's like, "Go on now, get
out of here." Yeah.
Go on now.
Speaking of 310 to Yuma, for my money, that's Ben Foster's best role. Like he plays a little psycho in that movie and he's awesome at it.
Oh yeah. No, he's really good at playing a psycho. Have you ever he's in a lot of movies that you won't touch. Due to the nature of kind of it being horror or sci-fi horror. So those are what I typically know Ben Foster from.
Or he does war movies where he's like part of the SEAL Team 5 or SEAL Team 6 or whatever. Yeah.
Because he was like in 30 Days a Night. And
I did see that.
What was the... Yeah.
And Danny Houston did a great job in that movie. I still have nightmares about that guy.
Yeah. And then he was also in this and it's a Dennis Quaid sci-fi spaceship movie. They're in space and he wakes up and there's monsters on the spaceship and Ben Foster's in that and he's like unnervingly good in that as well.
Yeah.
But it's a really dark kind of scary movie that I don't think you'd be stoked on. So and I'm trying to remember the name of it. I can't remember the name of it.
I'll IMDb it or
Doesn't matter.
Google it. But do you have a pick?
Yeah.
Do you have a random movie pick of the week people should go check out or rewatch or something? I do.
Oh, go. You start. Go ahead.
No reason at all to click on it. I just did and forgot how awesome the movie was. Even though if it's Danny Boyle, you can expect there's a monster in there somewhere, and there was. I wasn't disappointed. Check out Sunshine with Cillian Murphy.
Sunshine.
It's a Danny Boyle movie. Really, really fun. Kind of dystopian element to it. A little ahead of its time, I think, cinematically, but really, really good. Check it out. That's my rewatch pick. I just happened across it and went, oh, yeah, I think I like this movie. By the time I was done, I was like, damn, I like that movie. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, it's an awesome movie. You'd be hard pressed to find a Danny Boyle movie that I didn't love. Up into the first half of his catalog, from Trainspotting through Millions, through The Beach, through Sunshine.
He's in my top 5 for
and going
directors
on.
for sure. Like Danny Boyle,
Yeah,
I would say
30
Tarantino
He's
for
just so
dialogue.
versatile.
Oh, yeah. And Guy Ritchie for character development for sure.
Oh, fantastic. I love Guy Ritchie. Like Sherlock Holmes movies and then all of his earlier works too they're fun. He's a fun director. But I think the remake of The Magnificent Seven is probably something I'd suggest people rewatch. That's
Nice.
my pick of the week. It is masterfully done, wonderful cast, and just, man, entertaining from beginning to end. And I'm not even, I like I hate Westerns, but I love a good Western.
Yeah.
So so between that and then also Sam Raimi's Quick and the Dead, if you want to see Sam Raimi of Evil Dead and Spider-Man and all of the movies that he is known for, right wedged in the middle of all that, he did a Western that is basically like if you took like Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat and put it in a Western kind of scenario with an awesome cast that has Gene Hackman, Sharon Stone, Leonardo DiCaprio, and Lance Hendrickson, and Russell Crowe is also in it. Like this crazy cast. And it's basically like each one of them like is a different character gunslinger, and there's a big match because this rich mogul who runs the town with an iron fist has decided that every year they're going to have this.
That'd be
so that he
The
can
Quick
keep
and the
it.
Dead, right?
Yeah. The Quick and the Dead. An amazing film that I think a lot of people did not see and really should go take a look at and revisit.
We should do a numbers-based weird association movie marathon that we suggest people watch. Like find something with 5 in the title and then move to 3 6s, then watch 7 followed by The Magnificent 7, then watch The Hateful 8 followed by 8mm, and then we got to find something with 9 in the title of it, and then 10.
There's actually a movie called 9.
Yeah, there you go. Watch 9.
So
100%. Yeah, that should be a thing. Just like, are you locked down because of COVID? Here's a string of movies you can watch that are all numerical, that have no relation to one another.
They actually make clocks with movies.
Oh, no way, really?
That are the numbered movies. Yeah.
Oh, that's
So,
awesome.
for film people.
Oh, fucking
yeah, it's pretty
sick.
cool. I thought about getting one.
Dude, I got to look into that.
So-
Well, I think we should probably call it here. Yeah. Anything?
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything else? We got a lot of good content out tonight. I appreciate it.
I think we did, and I'm excited to get to see and be seen by the YouTube community, and
Yeah,
I'm really
welcome.
happy that this project is going forward, and I'm having a good time with it, and I'm
Me
having
too.
a good time discussing everything from the serious to the not so serious, and just two dudes just talking shit, and that's what I like.
I love it. Well, cool. That's going to end it for now. We'll be back again soon, and we might even bring a guest. You never know. So, yeah, we will see you next time. Bye now.